Hey guys, tonight we're going to pull back the silken curtains, step past the silent eunuchs, and peer into the incredibly private, yet rigidly public, world of the ancient Chinese emperor's bedtime time. You might imagine the son of heaven simply kicking off his slippers and flopping onto a giant, opulent bed. But in Imperial China, even the act of going to sleep was a complex ballet of ritual, security, and deeply ingrained tradition. A performance designed to ensure not just his personal rest, but the stability of an entire empire. You're not gonna survive this level of detailed bedtime planning, I promise you. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. It's Friday evening here in Vietnam, and the sounds of the city are just starting to wind down. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Our first glimpse into this meticulously orchestrated evening begins with sunset rituals, day's end. You've been the emperor all day, an exhausting, monumental task. You've held court, received petty issued decrees, perhaps even reviewed military strategies or weighed in on a complex legal case. As the sun dips below the vermilion walls of the Forbidden City, casting long shadows across the intricately tiled roofs, your final official duties of the day are typically concluding. This isn't a sharp cutoff, rather, it's a gradual winding down, a transition from the outward-facing role of governance to the more private, albeit still highly regulated, sphere of personal life. You might oversee the final reports of the day being presented by trusted ministers, perhaps a quick, decisive approval or rejection, before dismissing them with a flick of your wrist. This final burst of official energy is crucial. It ensures all pressing matters are addressed, leaving the evening free for other, equally important, imperial functions, like actually getting some rest. One mainstream historical fact is the emperor's incredibly long and demanding workdays. Far from being idle figures, many Chinese emperors were diligent administrators, spending hours each day attending to state affairs, reading memorials, petitions, and holding audiences. This rigorous schedule often extended late into the evening, making the transition to bedtime a necessary, but often late, shift. You can almost feel the mental fatigue, the sheer volume of information to process, before even considering turning in for the night. Now for a quirky tidbit. Sometimes, if a particularly urgent or sensitive matter arose just as the sun was setting, the emperor might summon a single, trusted grand secretary to his study for a final whispered consultation, bypassing the usual formal audience. Imagine everyone else packing up, ready for their evening rice, and you alone get called back for a top-secret, last-minute briefing with the most powerful person in the empire. What a truly high-stakes way to end your workday. Historians still argue whether the emperor's meticulous adherence to concluding daily state affairs before sunset was primarily a practical administrative habit, designed for efficiency and to clear he decks for personal time, or if it also carried symbolic weight, representing the daily culmination of his divine mandate to bring order and prosperity to the realm. Was it about efficiency or COSM? I see symbolism? The debate continues, much like the lingering golden light of a setting sun, casting a final, majestic glow over the responsibilities of the Son of Heaven before the quiet rituals of begin. You feel the immense gravity of the day's task slowly lifting, making way for the private, though no less significant, preparations for imperial rest. From the weighty conclusion of the day's state affairs, your imperial journey now transitions to a more personal, yet equally ritualized, aspect of your evening, the evening bath, purification and pairing. You might imagine a quick dip in a simple tub, just like anyone else. But for the emperor, this wasn't merely about getting clean. It was a sophisticated ceremony designed for physical purification, mental relaxation, and symbolic renewal, an essential step in shedding the day's burdens and preparing for the sacred rest. Imagine eunuchs meticulously preparing scented waters infused with R.A. herbs, while others gently guide you to a magnificent bathing chamber, ensuring every detail contributes to a profound sense of tranquility. It was less about a casual soak and more about an ancien lavish spa treatment, like a very exclusive, very high-stakes version of unwinding after a stressful day at the office. The Imperial bath was an elaborate affair. Depending on the dynasty and the emperor's personal preferences, it could involve multiple stages, perhaps a preliminary cleansing, followed by a deeper soak. In a large, often ornate, wooden or stone tub, the water itself would be carefully sourced, heated to a precise temperature, and often infused with fragrant herbs, flowers, or even precious oils, believed to have medicinal or calming properties. Specialized eunuchs, trained in the art of imperial bathing, would assist you, ensuring your comfort and privacy. This ritual wasn't just for physical cleanliness. It was believed to cleanse the spirit, wash away the impurities of the day, and restore balance to your chi, life energy, preparing you for a night of restorative sleep. You can almost feel the warm, fragrant steam rising around you, the gentle touch of a soft cloth, as the cares of the empire slowly dissolve. One mainstream historical fact is the ancient Chinese emphasis on hygiene and bathing, not just for personal cleanliness but for health and spiritual well-being. Regular bathing was a common practice among the elite, often incorporating herbs and fragrant ingredients. For the emperor, this practice was elevated to an art form, a testament to his unique status and access to the finest resources. You can almost hear the soft lapping of water, the quiet movements of attendants, creating a serene, private oasis. Now for a quirky tidbit. Some emperors, particularly those prone to migraines or fatigue, would have their bath water infused with rare medicinal herbs flown in from distant provinces, or even small ounce of dissolved precious minerals like jade, believed to imbue the water with healing properties. Imagine your bath being less about bubbles and more about a carefully concocted, incredibly expensive ancient medicinal brew designed to literally soak away your stress. What a truly luxurious form of hydrotherapy. Historians still argue whether the elaborate imperial bathing rituals were primarily a practical necessity for hygiene and relaxation given the lack of modern amenities, reflecting the sophisticated medical knowledge of the time, or if they also served as a symbolic demonstration of the emperor's divine purity and his superior access to resources, reinforcing his unparalleled status. Was it about cleanliness or divine display? The debate continues, much like the gentle ripples in a still pool, reflecting the serene image of an emperor shedding his earthly burdens, preparing for a night of red rest. You feel the profound sense of calm, the complete surrender to meticulous care, as you prepare to transition from ruler to resting mortal. From the soothing purification of the imperial bath, your evening now moves to perhaps the most fascinating, and often misunderstood, aspect of your pre-bed routine, choosing a companion, the tablet's wisdom. You might imagine the emperor, in a moment of spontaneous desire, simply summoning any concubine he fancied. But the reality was far more structured, a meticulously managed system designed to ensure order, control, and dynastic succession within the vast imperial harem. Imagine eunuchs presenting you with a tray of carved jade or ivory tablets, each bearing the name of a concubine, and your task is to turn one over, signaling your choice for the night. It was less about personal whim and more about a ritualized selection process, like a very ancient, very high-stakes lottery where you hold all the winning tickets. This tablet system, particularly prominent in dynasties like the Qing, was a clever administrative solution to manage the enormous number of women in the harem and ensure fairness, or at least the semblance of it. Each concubine eligible for a visit would have her name inscribed on a tablet. Every evening, after your dinner, the eunuchs in charge of the imperial bedchamber, specifically the head eunuch of the Jing, Office of Imperial Affairs, would present these tablets to you. You would then turn over the tablet of your chosen companion. This highly formalized method served several purposes. It prevented concubines from directly lobbying or bribing the emperor, minimized favoritism disputes, at least overtly, and allowed for a rotational system, increasing the chances of various women bearing heirs. You can almost feel the weight of the small, cool tablet in your hand, its selection carrying immense implications for the woman whose name it bears. One mainstream historical fact is the existence of specific palace departments and eunuch offices dedicated solely to managing the imperial harem. These departments meticulously recorded everything from a concubine's entry into the palace, her rank, her allowances, and crucially, every single visit from the emperor. This bureaucratic oversight ensured strict control and accountability. You can almost hear the soft rustle of ledgers, pages being turned, documenting the most intimate aspects of imperial life. Now for a quirky tidbit. Sometimes, if the emperor had no particular preference for the night, he might simply point to a random tablet, or even ask the head eunuch to make the selection on his behalf. Imagine having the ultimate choice of companion, and just punting it to your chief of staff. What a truly efficient, if somewhat impersonal, way to manage your romantic life. Historians still argue whether the tablet system was primarily a practical administrative tool designed to maintain order and maximize the chances of imperial succession within a large harem, reflecting the dynastic imperative for male heirs, or if it also served as a psychological mechanism to reinforce the emperor's absolute control over his consorts, reducing personal choice to a formalized ritual. Was it about efficiency, or asserting dominance? The debate continues, much like the gentle clinking of jade tablets, a silent reminder of the power held in a single turn of the hand, dictating the fate of a woman's night, and potentially, her future. You feel the immense gravity of the choice, even in its quiet simplicity. From the intriguing, often impersonal, selection process of the tablet system, your imperial evening now proceeds to a moment of quiet ceremony. Imperial dressing gown, robes of state. You might imagine any simply throwing on a comfortable bathrobe after your bath. But for the Son of Heaven, even the seemingly mundane act was imbued with layers of symbolism and practical significance, involving spicy, ally-prepared garments that underscored your unique status. Imagine eunuchs carefully holding out a robe crafted from the finest silk, intricately embroidered with golden dragons or auspicious cloud motifs, its weight and texture a constant reminder of your imperial dignity. It was less about casual comfort and more about donning a softened extension of your daytime regalia, like a very luxurious, very important set of pajamas. After the purification of the bath, you wouldn't just slip into any old garment. The dressing gown, while perhaps less formal than your daytime court robes, was still a meticulously crafted piece of attire. It would be made of luxurious materials like silk, brocade, or fine cotton, chosen for comfort and breathability. Its design often incorporated imperial symbols, dragons, clouds, the sun, or mountains, signifying your connection to heaven and earth, and your role as ruler. This garment served a dual purpose. It offered comfort after the bath, preparing you for relaxation, but it also maintained a level of imperial decorum, even in your more private moments. It was a visual reminder to everyone present, and perhaps to yourself, of your exalted position, even as you transition towards sleep. You can almost feel the smooth, cool silk against your skin, the subtle weight of the embroidery, a constant, gentle embrace of your imperial identity. One mainstream historical fact is the rigorous dress codes and symbolism embedded in imperial attire throughout Chinese history. Every garment, from formal court robes to less ceremonial wear, was decorated with specific colors, patterns, and motifs that conveyed rank, status, and auspiciousness. This extended even to the emperor's private wear, ensuring that his imperial presence was consistent. Why maintained? You can almost hear the soft rustle of expensive fabrics, each movement a silent declaration of power and tradition. Now for a quirky tidbit. Sometimes, if an emperor had a particularly trying day, his eunuchs might select a specific dressing gown infused with subtle calming fragrances, perhaps through sachets of lavender or sandalwood sewn into the lining, to aid in relaxation. Imagine your pajamas not just being comfortable, but actively working as aromatherapy. What a truly thoughtful and utterly luxurious form of imperial self-care. Historians still argue whether the elaborate nature of the emperor's dressing gown and its symbolic embroidery was primarily a practical matter of maintaining personal comfort and warmth in the often chilly palace during the evenings, or if it was also a deliberate continuation of the visual projection of imperial power and divinity, even in seemingly private moments, ensuring that the emperor was always seen as the son of heaven. Was it about practical comfort or perpetual display? The debate continues, much like the gentle fall of a silken robe, a quiet testament to the enduring weight of expectation, even as the emperor prepares to shed the most formal burdens of his day. You feel the subtle blend of comfort and ceremony, a constant reminder of your unique place in the universe. From the ceremonial donning of your imperial dressing gown, your evening now progresses to a highly ritualized, yet often solitary, affair dinner protocol, solitary splendor. You might imagine a bustling dining hall filled with family and favored courtiers, a lively feast. But for the emperor, supper was typically a meticulously choreographed meal, often consumed in quiet solitude, surrounded by watchful eunuchs, far from the boisterousness of a family gathering. Imagine dozens of dishes, each prepared to perfection, being presented by a procession of eunuchs, only for you to take a few bites from a select few, under the silent, ever-present gaze of your attendants. It was less about social dining and more about a dignified, isolated act of sustenance, like a very private, very elaborate taste test where every spoonful carried hidden implications. The imperial dinner was a complex logistical operation. Food would be prepared in specialized palace kitchens, then meticulously tested for poison by eunuchs before being brought to your dining area. You, the emperor, would then be presented with an array of dishes, far more than you could possibly eat, reflecting the vastness of your domain and the abundance of the empire. However, you were not expected to finish every dish, or even most of them. Often, you would only sample small portions from a few selected dishes. This protocol ensured food safety and prevented any single dish from being targeted. It also highlighted your unique position, always served, always observed, even during something as basic as a meal. After you finished, the remaining food would typically be distributed to favored concubines, princes, or high-ranking eunuchs, a gesture that served as a subtle form of favor bestowal. You can almost feel the quiet tension in the room, the hushed movements of the eunuchs, as they serve your solitary meal. One mainstream historical fact is the constant threat of poison faced by Chinese emperors, making food safety and tasting protocols an absolute necessity. Eunuchs often served as tasters, taking small bites of each dish before it was presented to the emperor, risking their own lives to ensure his safety. This was not merely paranoia but a real concern given the prevalence of court intrigue and assassination attempts. You can almost hear the soft click of porcelain as a eunuch carefully samples a dish, his expression unchanging. Now for a quirky tidbit. Sometimes, if the emperor found a dish particularly delicious, he wouldn't finish it entirely. Instead, he would leave a portion, signaling that it was to be sent to a favored concubine or family member as a special mark of imperial favor. Imagine leaving a bite of your favorite dessert, not because you're full, but because it's the highest honor you can bestow upon someone you care about. What a truly unique form of imperial food sharing. Historians still argue whether the emperor's solitary dinner protocol was primarily a practical security measure to prevent poisoning and manage food distribution within the vast palace, reflecting constant threats to his life, or if it also reinforced his elevated, almost divine, status, separating him from the mundane acts of communal eating and emphasizing his unique isolation at the pinnacle Lure of power. Was it about safety, or symbolic segregation? The debate continues, much like the gentle clink of jade chopsticks against porcelain, a silent testament to the peculiar blend of isolation and grandeur that defined an emperor's evening meal. You feel the immense formality, the watchful eyes, even during this most basic human need. From the solemn ritual of your solitary imperial dinner, your evening now transitions to a constant, almost ethereal presence, eunuch attendance, constant vigilance. You might imagine wanting true privacy in your personal chambers. But for the emperor, solitude was a luxury rarely afforded. Instead, you were surrounded by a silent, ever-present corps of eunuchs, their vigilance unwavering, their loyalty both absolute and, at times, unsettling. Imagine moving from your dining area to your private study, then to your bedchamber, and always, just a few steps behind, a eunuch, their movements hushed, their eyes discreetly observing, ready to anticipate your every unspoken need or command. It was less about personal space and more about living in a perfectly choreographed, human-powered surveillance system, like having a very dedicated, very silent, round-the-clock personal assistant team. These eunuchs, who had undergone castration to serve safely within the inner court, were your closest attendants. They performed a myriad of duties, managing your daily schedule, attending to your personal hygiene, delivering messages, organizing your meals, and crucially, providing continuous security. Even as you settled down for the evening, a number of eunuchs would remain on duty outside our immediate bedchamber, often in an adjoining antechamber, or even just beyond a screen, ready to respond instantly. Their vigilance was paramount for your safety, guarding against intruders, fire, or any unexpected disturbance. Their presence was a constant reminder of both your exalted status and the perpetual need for protection at the pinnacle of power. You can almost feel their silent watchfulness, a subtle pressure in the air, even in the quiet of your private retreat. One mainstream historical fact is the vast number and specialized roles of eunuchs within the imperial palace, particularly during later dynasties like the Ming and Qing. They formed a complex bureaucracy, with specific departments and ranks, managing everything from treasury and rituals to personal attendance and internal security. Their roles were far more extensive than simple servants, making them indispensable to the emperor's daily life. You can almost hear the soft, almost imperceptible rustle of their silk robes as they move through the dimly lit corridors, guardians of the Imperial GHT. Now for a quirky tidbit, sometimes, a select few trusted eunuchs were trained in the art of silent walking, specifically designed to move through the palace corridors and your chambers without making a single sound. They would practice for hours to ensure their footsteps were utterly imperceptible, allowing them to approach or attend to you without causing any disturbance. Imagine trying to sneak out of bed for a midnight snack, only to realize your personal shadows can move quieter than a mouse. What a truly unsettling level of stealth. Historians still argue whether the extensive reliance on eunuchs for the emperor's personal attendance was primarily a practical solution for providing intimate service while mitigating the threat of rival families or external plots, by employing men who could not establish their own dynasties, or if it also fostered an environment of isolated dependency for the emperor, making him reliant on a potentially powerful and self-serving eunuch faction. Was it about security, or creating a new power base? The debate continues, much like the barely audible breath of a watchful eunuch, a silent tam, and to the complex layers of service and control that defined an emperor's most private moments. You feel the constant presence, a silent bubble of human vigilance around your imperial self. From the unblinking vigilance of your eunuch attendants, your evening now takes a slightly more clinical turn: medical checks, health before bed. You might imagine the emperor, being the son of heaven, was somehow immune to common ailments, or that his health was only a concern when he was visibly ill. But in reality, your well-being was a matter of supreme national importance, meticulously monitored. read by a dedicated team of imperial physicians who made routine assessments part of your nightly routine. Imagine a quiet moment where a trusted court physician checks your pulse, observes your compo Zian, and asks discreet questions about your day, all before you even consider sleeping. It was less about waiting for symptoms and more about proactive, almost preventative, health surveillance, like having a very expensive, very traditional medical team on call 24/7. The imperial physicians, often numbering in the dozens, were highly skilled practitioners of traditional Chinese medicine, TCM. Their primary duty was to maintain the emperor's health and longevity, as your vigor was seen as a reflection of cosmic harmony and the stability of the empire. Before you retired for the night, a chief physician or a trusted senior doctor would conduct a brief but thorough examination. This typically involved taking your pulse, which in TCM is a key diagnostic tool, often taken at multiple points on both wrists, observing your tongue, and asking about your appetite, digestion, and general feelings of well-being. They might also recommend specific herbal concoctions to aid sleep, improve digestion, or bolster your qi, ensuring you were in optimal condition for night's rest. You can almost feel the gentle pressure of their fingers on your wrist, the quiet concentration in their eyes, as they assess the subtle rhythms of your body. One mainstream historical fact is the highly organized and influential Imperial Medical Bureau that existed throughout many Chinese dynasties. This bureau was responsible for the health of the entire imperial family, employing top physicians from across the empire, and meticulously recording all treatments, diagnoses, and prescriptions. Their records offer invaluable insights into imperial health and medical practices of the time. You can almost hear the soft rustle of scrolls, documenting every ailment and every remedy, a comprehensive historical health record. Now for a quirky tidbit. Sometimes, if an emperor was particularly anxious or restless, the imperial physicians might prescribe a light, sleep-inducing, fragrance sachet to be placed near his pillow. These sachets contained a blend of calming herbs like lavender, jasmine, or osmanthus, subtly releasing their aromas throughout the night to promote relaxation and deep sleep. Imagine your doctor giving you a custom-made, all-natural sleep aid that also smells incredibly pleasant. What a truly soothing form of ancient aromatherapy. Historians still argue whether the meticulous daily health checks performed on the emperor were primarily a genuine and effective medical practice aimed at prolonging his life and ensuring his fitness to rule, reflecting the advanced state of TCM, or if they also served as a symbolic performance of imperial power and preciousness, demonstrating the boundless resources dedicated to the son of He's well-being, regardless of immediate medical necessity. Was it about health or statecraft? The debate continues, much like the gentle rhythm of a steady pulse, a silent testament to the constant and profound significance attached to an emperor's physical state, even as he prepared for the quiet respite of sleep. You feel the immense gravity of your own physical condition, a national asset to be vigilantly protected. From the careful observations of your imperial physicians, your evening now shifts to a quieter, more intellectual pursuit, reading and study, intellectual wind down. You might imagine the Emperor immediately retiring to bed after his physical preparations. But for many rulers, particularly those who valued scholarship, the moments before sleep were reserved for engaging with classical texts, oracle records, or even poetic compositions, a final intellectual exercise before surrendering to slumber. Imagine yourself in a dimly lit study, surrounded by ancient scrolls and bound volumes, your fingers tracing characters as you absorb wisdom from millennia past, a tranquil counterpoint to the day's political turmoil. It was less about preparing for tomorrow's debates and more about nourishing the mind, like a very exclusive, very well-stocked imperial library at your personal disposal. Many Chinese emperors were highly educated individuals, schooled from a young age in the Confucian classics, history, and the arts. For them, reading was not just a duty but often a personal pleasure, and a way to seek guidance or solace. Before retiring, you might spend time reviewing important memorials, perhaps a newly compiled historical account, or simply immersing yourself in a beloved volume of poetry or philosophy. This intellectual wind-down served to calm the mind, shifting focus from the pressures of governance to more contemplative thoughts. It was also a way to maintain your schola ROI acumen, a constant reminder that a wise ruler was also a learned one. Eunuchs would ensure the lighting was appropriate and that the chosen texts were readily available, maintaining the quiet sanctity of this personal study time. You can almost feel the smooth texture of aged paper, the faint scent of ink, as you lose yourself in the wisdom of the ancients. One mainstream historical fact is the deep reverence for scholarship and classical learning that permeated all levels of Chinese society, especially the imperial court. Emperors were expected to be well versed in the classics, and many actively patronized scholars, commissioned historical texts, and even contributed to literary works themselves, making personal study a common and respected imperial habit. You can almost hear the soft rustle of pages, the quiet turning of a scroll, a testament to a lifelong dedication to knowledge. Now for a quirky tidbit. Sometimes, if an emperor was particularly fond of a specific historical anecdote, or a passage from a philosophical text, he might instruct his attendant eunuchs to memorize sections so they could recite them to him from memory if he felt restless or needed a distraction in the middle of the night. Imagine having a personal human audiobook service, ready to deliver insight and wisdom on demand. What a truly unique way to combat midnight restlessness. Historians still argue whether the emperor's practice of reading and studying before bed was primarily a genuine expression of his personal intellectual curiosity and a pursuit of wisdom for better governance, reflecting the Confucian ideal of a scholar ruler, or if it was also a performative act, a way to project an image of diligence and erudition to his court and the chroniclers, regardless of how much actual learning occurred. Was it about true enlightenment, or public image? The debate continues, much like the gentle flickering of an oil lamp, casting long shadows over ancient texts, illuminating the quiet contemplation of a ruler seeking knowledge and peace in the final hours of his day. You feel the profound quiet, the mental engagement, a final intellectual journey before sleep. From the quiet intellectual engagement of reading and study, your imperial evening sometimes shifts to a more immediate, strategic focus, strategic conversations, final briefings. You might imagine official business ceased once the sun set. But for an emperor, particularly one facing pressing matters of state or sensitive political intrigues, the hours just before retiring could be an opportune time for discreet, last-minute discussions with a select few trusted advisors or eunuchs. Imagine a hushed conversation with the chief minister about an urgent military report, or a whispered update from a confidant about a brewing factional dispute, all conducted in the soft glow of lanterns, far from the prying ears of the main court. It was less about formal meetings and more about a clandestine exchange of vital information, like a very exclusive, very silent, late-night war council. These pre-bedtime briefings were typically reserved for matters of extreme urgency or sensitivity that required immediate attention or could not wait until morning. The emperor might summon a single, highly trusted grand secretary, a military general who had just returned from a crucial mission, or a senior eunuch with unparalleled access to palace intelligence. These conversations would be conducted with utmost discretion, often in a private study or a secluded corner of the imperial bedchamber antechamber, with all other attendants dismissed or standing at a respectful, unhearing distance. He late hour and intimate setting allowed for a level of candor and directness that might be difficult to achieve during formal daytime audiences, where protocols and watchful eyes were ever present. You can almost feel the weight of the whispered words, the gravity of the information exchanged, as the fate of the empire might hang on these nocturnal consultations. One mainstream historical fact is the emperor's reliance on a close circle of trusted advisors, often including grand secretaries and chief eunuchs, especially for sensitive political and military elegance. These individuals formed a crucial inner cabinet, and their access to the emperor, even at unusual hours, was a hallmark of their influence. The lines between personal service and statecraft often blurred in these roles. You can almost hear the soft rustle of silk as a high-ranking official quietly enters your private space, carrying vital news. Now for a quirky tidbit. Sometimes, to ensure absolute secrecy, the emperor might even use a whispering tube, a hollow bamboo or metal tube, to speak directly into the ear of his trusted advisor, even if they were standing quite close, to prevent any distant eavesdropping. Imagine having a private, ancient intercom system just for top-secret conversations before bed. What a truly ingenious, and their dramatic, method of ensuring confidentiality. Historians still argue whether these late-night strategic conversations primarily represented the unavoidable pressures of imperial governance, reflecting a diligent emperor's commitment to state IRS around the clock, or if they also fostered an atmosphere of suspicion and favoritism within the court, as ministers vied for this exclusive access and opportunity to influence the emperor in his or private moments. Was it about necessity, or power consolidation? The debate continues, much like the gentle murmur of voices behind a closed door, carrying the weight of state secrets into the of the imperial night, shaping the course of history even as the rest of the palace slept. You feel the constant burden of leadership, even in moments meant for winding down. From the weight of strategic conversations, your imperial evening sometimes shifts to a more refined, soothing experience, artistic appreciation, music, and poetry. You might imagine the emperor Ned by affairs of state, having little time for leisure before bed. But for many rulers, especially those with a cultivated taste, engaging with music or poetry was a cherished ritual, a way to calm mind and nourish the spirit after a demanding day. Imagine soft melodies from a guqin or a pipa filling your private chamber, or the gentle recitation of classical verses by a skilled eunuch an atmosphere of tranquility and contemplation. It was less about grand performances and more about an intimate, personal engagement with beauty, like a very private, very ancient bedtime concert, curated just for you. Many Chinese emperors were not just patrons of the arts but also accomplished artists themselves, well versed in music theory, poetic composition, and calligraphy. For them, spending time with art or bed was not a frivolous diversion but a vital part of maintaining their mental and emotional well-being. You might request a eunuch to play a specific classical piece that resonated with your mood, or to recite poems from your favorite Tang Dynasty poet. This artistic interlude served as a powerful antidote to the day's stress, allowing you to transition from the realm of politics to a space of personal reflection and aesthetic enjoyment. The choice of music or poetry would often be tailored to promote calmness and clarity of mind, setting the stage for peaceful sleep. You can almost feel the gentle waves of sound washing over you, the poetic imagery painting silent pictures in your mind, easing you towards slumber. One mainstream historical fact is the deep integration of music and poetry within Chinese imperial culture, where these arts were considered essential for cultivation, moral refinement, and expressing the highest human emotions. Emperors frequently commissioned musical works, collected poetry, and often participated in artistic gatherings, demonstrating their own cultural prowess. This made artists' appreciation a natural and valued part of their evening routine. You can almost hear the delicate plucking of strings, a timeless melody echoing through the ancient palace, soothing the imperial soul. Now for a quirky tidbit. Sometimes, if an emperor was particularly fond of a certain concubine's artistic talents, as we discussed with poetry in our previous journey, he might specifically request that she perform a piece of music or recite a poem for him from a discreet distance, or even from behind a screen, just before he fully retired. Imagine being serenaded by a talented individual, knowing their art is solely for your ears, an exclusive performance just for your quiet enjoyment. What a truly personalized form of imperial lullaby! Historians still argue whether the emperor's engagement with music and poetry before bed was primarily a genuine expression of his personal artistic sensibilities and a pursuit of mental well-being, reflecting a cultured and contemplative ruler, or if it also served as a strategic act, a demonstration of his refined taste and a way to project an image of serene authority to his immediate attendant. Even in his more private moments. Was it about personal enjoyment, or subtle image management? The debate continues, much like the gentle fading of a melody into the quiet of the night, leaving bay. A profound sense of peace, a silent testament to the enduring power of art to shape even the final moments of an emperor's day. You feel the profound calm, the aesthetic pleasure, a final touch of beauty before the world slips away. From the calming embrace of music and poetry, your imperial evening now directs its focus to the very space where you'll surrender to sleep, preparing the bedchamber, comfort and security. You might imagine a simple maid quickly turning down the covers. But for the emperor, this was a meticulously choreographed process involving numerous eunuchs, every detail precisely managed to ensure not just comfort, but absolute security against any potential threat, however remote. Imagine palace staff carefully inspecting every corner, smoothing every wrinkle on your vast bed, and arranging your pillows. Just so, all while remaining utterly silent and invisible to your imperial eye. It was less about domestic chores and more about a covert operation to create a sanctuary, like having a very dedicated, very silent special forces team preparing your bedroom for the night. The imperial bedchamber was often a large, multi-room complex, not just a single sleeping area. As you finished your evening activities, eunuchs would begin the elaborate preparations. This involved ironing out the room, ensuring the ambient temperature was perfect, using braziers in winter or cooling methods in summer, and meticulously arranging the bedding. The imperial bed itself was often enormous, draped with layers of silk and brocade, and piled with numerous pillows of varying firmness. Eunuchs would inspect every fold, every shadow, ensuring no hidden dangers lurked. They might also strategically place screens or curtains to block drafts and enhance privacy within the vast space. The goal was to create an environment of unparalleled comfort and absolute peace of mind, free from any perceived or actual threats. You can almost feel the soft texture of the silken sheets, the subtle plumpness of the pillows, all perfectly prepared for your imperial rest. One mainstream historical fact is the complex design of imperial palaces and their numerous hidden compartments and security features. While much attention was paid to the perimeter, the emperor's living and sleeping quarters were considered the ultimate redoubt, with multiple layers of physical barriers and human guards. Preparing this space involved not just comfort, but a thorough security sweep. You can almost hear the soft, almost imperceptible movements of eunuchs as they methodically check every crevice, ensuring your complete safety. Now for a quirky tidbit. Sometimes, to ensure the bed was perfectly warm and inviting in cold weather, eunuchs might place small, heated bricks or polished stones wrapped in silk under the imperial blankets for a short period before the emperor retired, removing them just as he was about to get into bed. Imagine having your bed pre-warmed by a team of dedicated staff, ensuring peak coziness on a hilly night. What a truly luxurious, and quite ancient, form of bed preheating. Historians still argue whether the extreme meticulousness in preparing the emperor's bedchamber was primarily a practical necessity for comfort and security in an era without modern climate control and surveillance, reflecting the ingenuity of palace staff, or if it also served as a symbolic demonstration of the emperor's supreme importance and the boundless resources dedicated to his well-being, even down to the smallest detail of his personal comfort. Was it about efficiency, or imperial grandeur? The debate continues, much like the gentle rustle of a silken sheet, settling into place, and testament to the layers of care and vigilance surrounding the Son of Heaven as he prepared to enter the realm of sleep. You feel the profound sense of order, the silent precision, in the preparation of your sanctuary. From the meticulous preparation of your bedchamber, your imperial evening now engages another sense, subtly enhancing the atmosphere for sleep. Incense and aromas, scented serenity. You might imagine. Pleasant smells were just a minor detail. But in the emperor's private quarters, the strategic use of specific incenses, fragrant woods, and essential oils was an ancient art, believed to purify the air, calm the mind, and even ward off malevolent influences, all contributing to a perfect night's rest. Imagine eunuchs carefully lighting a small censer, the delicate wisps of smoke carrying the soot. Scent of sandalwood or agarwood, slowly filling your chamber with a tranquil, almost meditative aroma. It was less about a random air freshener and more about ancient aromatherapy, like a very very spiritual, atmospheric engineering project for sleep. The use of incense and fragrant compounds was deeply ingrained in Chinese culture, revered for its aesthetic pleasure, medicinal properties, and spiritual significance. In your bedchamber, these aromas served multiple purposes. Certain incenses were believed to have calming effects, helping to alleviate anxiety and promote relaxation, directly aiding in sleep. Others were thought to purify the air, dispelling any lingering impurities or unpleasant odors. Some rare and expensive aromatics, like high-quality agarwood, were even believed to attract auspicious energies and ward off negative spirits, ensuring a peaceful and protected slumber for the Son of Heaven. The specific blend of aromas would be carefully selected by expert eunuchs or imperial physicians, tailored to your individual needs. And the season. You can almost feel the gentle shift in the air, the subtle sweetness, as the precious scents envelop you, inviting tranquility. One mainstream historical fact is the extensive use of incense in religious ceremonies, daily life, and medicine throughout Chinese history. Incense burners, often intricately crafted, were common household items among the wealthy, and specific types of wood and resin were highly prized for their aromatic qualities. The imperial court would naturally have access to the finest and rarest aromatics. You can almost hear the soft crackle of glowing embers in a censer, releasing their fragrant secrets. Now for a quirky tidbit. Sometimes, if an emperor was struggling with particularly vivid or disturbing dreams, the imperial physicians might recommend burning a very specific, rare type of dream calm incense, which often contained unusual ingredients like pulverized pearls or extracts from certain calming herbs. Imagine your custom sleep blend also having a subtle, almost magical, anti-nightum effect. What a truly specialized form of ancient dream therapy. Historians still argue whether the elaborate use of incense and aromas in the emperor's bedchamber was primarily a practical method for hygiene and relaxation, leveraging the known properties of aroma tics for health and well-being, or if it also served as a profound symbolic act, reinforcing the emperor's purity and spiritual connection, creating a sacred space for his rest. Was it about calm or cosmic protection? The debate continues, much like the gentle curl of smoke rising from a censer, carrying subtle scents and silent prayers into the quiet of the imperial night, creating an atmosphere of serene anticipation before sleep. You feel the profound sense of peace, the subtle shift in ambience, as your senses are gently lulled towards rest. From the fragrant serenity of incense and aromas, your imperial evening now tightens its grip on a paramount concern: security layers, guards, and patrols. You might imagine the palace gates being locked, and everyone simply going to bed. But for the emperor, the most powerful man in the realm and thus the most vulnerable, countless layers of human surveillance and physical barriers were activated, creating an impenetrable fortress around your sleeping form. Imagine shadowy figures moving silently through courtyards, armed guards positioned at every strategic point, and multiple gates being secu read with heavy bolts, all to ensure your undisturbed rest. It was less about a simple lock on the door and more about a vast, living labyrinth of protection, like a very ancient, very high-tech security system powered by thousands of vigilant eyes. The security around the emperor's person, especially at night, was obsessive. Beyond the eunuchs inside your immediate chambers, as we discussed in Section 6, the Forbidden City itself was a complex web of walls, gates, and courtyards, each with its own detachment of guards. As night fell, specific units of the Imperial Guard would begin their patrols, following strict routes and schedules. Outer gates would be secured, inner gates sealed, and watchtowers manned. No unauthorized person could move within the palace grounds without immediate challenge. Your immediate bedchamber area would have its own elite detachment of guards, often positioned in adjoining rooms or hidden alcoves, ready to respond to the slightest disturbance. This multi-layered approach was a direct response to the historical prevalence of assassination attempts, coups, and palace intrigues. You can almost feel the chilling silence outside your walls, punctuated only by the distant, rhythmic footsteps of patrolling wards. One mainstream historical fact is the existence of highly disciplined and specialized Imperial Guard units throughout Chinese history. These units, often comprised of elite soldiers or highly trained martial artists, were solely dedicated to protecting the emperor and the imperial family, reflecting the absolute necessity of safeguarding the ruler's life. Their training and loyalty were paramount to imperial stability. You can almost hear the soft, almost imperceptible shift of weight as a guard stands at attention, his gaze unwavering in the darkness. Now for a quirky tidbit: sometimes, to ensure guards remained vigilant and didn't fall asleep on duty, particularly during long, cold nights, eunuchs might subtly circulate among them, delivering small, bitter cups of strong, unsweetened tea or even very mild stimulant herbs. Imagine trying to stay awake on guard duty, and suddenly a silent figure offers you a tiny, incredibly potent espresso shot made from ancient tea leaves. What a truly traditional, and rather effective, form of imperial caffeine delivery. Historians still argue whether the extreme number of security layers surrounding the emperor at night was primarily a genuinely necessary response to tangible threats of assassination and rebellion, reflecting a realistic assessment of court dangers, or if it also served as a symbolic projection of imperial power and paranoia, reinforcing the emperor's isolation and demonstrating his absolute control over every aspect of palace life, even his own sleep. Was it about real danger, or perceived might? The debate continues, much like the gentle creak of a distant gate, a silent testament to the endless vigilance, the constant fear, that accompanied the supreme power of the Son of Heaven, even in the presumed safety of his bed. You feel the constant presence of protection, a silent, watchful cocoon around your imperial self. From the multiple layers of vigilant security, your imperial evening now ventures into a more mysterious realm: dream interpretation, omens and portents. You might imagine dreams were simply the random firings of a tired mind. But for the Son of Heaven, your nocturnal visions were considered far more significant. They were believed to be messages from the cosmos, omens from heaven, or insights into the future, requiring careful analysis by specialists. Imagine recounting a vivid dream to a trusted court diviner or astrologer, who meticulously notes every detail, seeking to decipher its hidden meaning for the stability of the empire. It was less about psychological introspection and more about decoding divine communication, like a very ancient, very high-stakes version of reading tea leaves, but with your very soul. In ancient China, dreams, particularly those of the emperor, held immense symbolic and prophetic power. A vivid dream could be interpreted as a warning from heaven, a blessing from ancestors, or a glimpse into the success or failure of future policies. Therefore, after you awoke, or even sometimes before fully drifting off, you might recall significant dreams to designated eunuchs or, more common, to court diviners, astrologers, or scholars well-versed in ancient texts and mystical arts. These specialists would then carefully analyze the dream's symbols, narratives, and emotional tone, comparing them to classical dream manuals and historical precedents, to provide an interpretation. A recurring nightmare might signal a flaw in governance, while a dream of dragons or auspicious animals old portend good fortune for the dynasty. You can almost feel the quiet intensity as a diviner pores over your dream, their brow furrowed in concentration, seeking to unlock its cosmic secrets. One mainstream historical fact is the prominence of divination and omens in Chinese imperial decision-making. From interpreting oracle bones in the Shang dynasty to consulting astrologers and dream interpreters in later eras, rulers often sought supernatural guidance to legitimize their rule, understand their destiny, and make crucial decisions. The emperor's dreams were considered a direct line to this mystical foresight. You can almost hear the soft rustle of ancient scrolls, filled with diagrams and cryptic interpretations, as the tools of divination are brought forth. Now for a quirky tidbit. Sometimes, if an emperor had a particularly complex or unsettling dream, he might commission a royal artist to paint a visual representation of the dream. This painting would then be used as a visual aid for the diviners, helping them to better analyze its symbols, or sometimes as a way to contain the dream's negative energy by externalizing it. Imagine your therapist as asking you to draw your nightmares, but for state security. What a truly unique, and rather artistic, approach to dream analysis. Historians still argue whether the meticulous interpretation of the emperor's dreams was primarily a genuine spiritual practice, reflecting a deep-seated belief in cosmic interconnectedness and divine omens, or if it also served as a political tool, allowing shrewd advisors to subtly influence imperial policy by framing their advice as heavenly mandates revealed through the emperor's subconscious. Was it about divine guidance, or political manipulation? The debate continues, much like the ephemeral wisp of a dream, fading with the morning light, yet leaving behind a lingering question about its profound meaning and lasting impact on the decisions of an empire. You feel the profound significance, the subtle anxiety, attached to these nightly journeys into the subconscious. From the mystical depths of dream interpretation, your imperial evening now culminates in a series of subtle actions, farewell today, symbolic gestures. You might imagine the emperor simply climbing into bed once all preparations were complete. But often, there were final, personal acts, small rituals or symbolic gestures performed just before full retirement, signifying the formal end of the day's responsibilities and a transition to the sanctity of sleep. Imagine quietly extinguishing a specific lamp, offering a silent prayer, or making a subtle gesture towards the imperial ancestors, acknowledging the continuum of your lineage even in your most private moments. It was less about practical tasks and more about a psychological and spiritual closing, like a very personal, very ancient, closing ceremony. These final gestures could vary greatly depending on the emperor's personal beliefs, the prevailing dynastic customs, and even his mood. Some emperors might engage in a brief moment of meditation, reflecting on the day's events or preparing their mind for the next. Others might offer a small, silent prayer to heaven or to their ancestors, seeking guidance or expressing gratitude. There might be a specific lamp, perhaps a delicate porcelain one, that only you, the emperor, had the privilege of extinguishing yourself, a symbolic act of taking control of your own space and signaling the final closure of the day. These acts serve to demarcate the transition from wakefulness and imperial duty to the vulnerability and renewal of sleep, ensuring a clear mental and spiritual break. You can almost feel the quiet solemnity of these final moments, the subtle shift in energy as you consciously release the burdens of the day. One mainstream historical fact is the deep reverence for ancestors and the practice of ancestor worship that was fundamental to Chinese imperial culture. Emperors often performed rituals and made offerings to their ancestors, seeking their blessing and guidance, and ensuring the continued prosperity of the dynasty. Even in private moments, this connection to the past would remain strong. You can almost hear the soft whisper of a prayer, carried on the night air to the spirit world. Now for a quirky tidbit. Sometimes, if an emperor was particularly concerned about the weather for the next day's outdoor activities, like a hunt or a ceremonial procession, He might have a trusted Unuch bring in a small, very detailed weather report delivered on a tiny scroll, just before he closed his eyes. Imagine checking the forecast for tomorrow, but in the most elaborate, ancient way possible, right before you try to sleep. What a truly dedicated, and slightly obsessive, form of pre-bed planning. Historians still argue whether these final symbolic gestures before bed were primarily a genuine spiritual or psychological need for closure and reflection, characteristic of introspective rulers, or if they were also subtle performative acts, understood by attending eunuchs as a final display of imperial control and ritual adherence, even when no one else was truly watching. Was it about inner peace or outward perception? The debate continues, much like the gentle flicker of a dying flame, a silent testament to the many layers of meaning embedded in the simple act of bidding farewell to the day, as the Son of Heaven prepared for the profound silence of night. You feel the profound sense of culmination, the quiet anticipation of true rest. From the final, symbolic gestures of bidding farewell to the day, your imperial journey now settles into the profound stillness of the sleep chamber. Absolute quiet. You might imagine a few hushed so. NBS might permeate the palace at night. But for the emperor, the quest for truly restorative sleep demanded an environment of almost supernatural tranquility, achieved through an intricate system of soundproofing and strict protocols enforced by legions of palace staff. Imagine the thick walls absorbing every distant murmur, the heavy silk curtains muffling even the softest breeze, creating a cocoon of silence so complete it almost feels like the world outside has ceased to exist. It was less about dimming the lights and more about silencing the very fabric of reality, like a very ancient, expansive sound isolation booth. The emperor's bedchamber was designed not just for comfort but for ultimate quietude. Thick walls, often made of multiple layers of brick or stone, would naturally dampen outside noise. Inside, heavy, multi-layered silk curtains and draperies absorbed any lingering echoes and prevented sounds from traveling. Beyond the immediate room, a cordon of eunuchs and guards maintained absolute silence, rolling the corridors with soft-soled shoes and communicating only in hushed whispers or through hand signals. Any sound, no matter how minor, a distant dog bark, the creak of a floorboard, the rustle of leaves in the courtyard, would be immediately addressed and silenced. This extreme focus on quiet was born from the belief that any disturbance could disrupt the emperor's vital rest potential, affecting his health and, by extension, the well-being of the empire. You can almost feel the profound stillness pressing in, a deep, resonant silence that is both comforting and perhaps a little unnerving. One mainstream historical fact is the architectural design of imperial palaces often incorporated features for noise reduction and climate control, using thick walls, courtyards, and specific material choices to create a more comfortable interior environment. While not solely for soundproofing, these features inherently contributed to the quietude of the emperor's private quarters. You can almost hear the absence of sound, a quiet testament to meticulous planning. Now for a quirky tidbit. Sometimes, to ensure absolutely no external sounds could disturb the emperor's slumber, certain eunuchs or guards might be assigned to stand outside the bedchamber, holding up thick, sound-absorbing felt blankets against strategic wall sections, particularly near windows or connecting doorways, creating an additional, temporary sound barrier. Imagine needing someone to Sikali hold up a giant noise-canceling blanket outside your bedroom so you can get some sleep. What a truly dedicated, and rather extreme, form of imperial white noise. Historians still argue whether the obsessive pursuit of absolute quiet in the emperor's sleep chamber was primarily a genuine practical measure to promote restorative sleep, reflecting an awareness of environmental factors on health, or if it also served as a symbolic reinforcement of the emperor's sacred, almost divine, detachment from the mundane world, emphasizing his unique and protected status at the very center of the universe. Was it about quiet rest, or divine isolation? The debate continues, much like the gentle whisper of your own breath in the profound silence, a silent testament to the extreme measures taken to ensure the undisturbed repose of the Son of Heaven. You feel the deep quiet, a powerful presence in itself. From the profound silence of the sleep chamber, your imperial evening now introduces the arrival of your chosen companion for the night, concubine's preparation, ritualized visit. You might imagine a chosen concubine simply walking into your room. But her journey to your bedchamber was an elaborate, highly ritualized procession, meticulously managed by eunuchs, designed to ensure decorum, security, and the sacred nature of the imperial union. Imagine the chosen woman, stripped of her elaborate garments, wrapped only in a large silk cloak, carried by eunuchs to your door, a silent figure in dim light, every step a part of a centuries-old protocol. It was less about a casual encounter and more about a ceremonial delivery, like a very ancient, very dignified, living package being transported. Once the emperor's choice was made via the tablet system, the selected concubine would be immediately informed. Her preparations were swift and precise. First, she would be thoroughly bathed, often special perfumed waters, and then carefully inspected by senior palace women or eunuchs to ensure she was free from any hidden weapons or objects, and was in perfect health. Her hair would be unbleached, and she would wear no jewelry or elaborate clothing. Instead, she would be wrapped in a large, soft silk cloak, often held shut by eunuchs, to preserve modesty and prevent concealment. She would be carried to the emperor's bedchamber by eunuchs, typically on their backs or in a sedan chair, arriving discreetly at a side entrance. This ritualized delivery emphasized her subordinate status and the emperor's absolute control, while also serving as a crucial security measure. You can almost feel the chill of the night air as she is carried, a silent, bundled form, towards her imperial One mainstream historical fact is the strict protocol governing all interactions between the emperor and his concubines, particularly at night. These rules were designed to maintain order, prevent PLOTS, and ensure that any potential imperial offspring were legitimately recognized. The concubine's stripped-down appearance and eunuch escort were standard parts of this protocol across many dynasties. You can almost hear the soft padding of bare feet and the rustle of silk as she is carried through the hushed palace. Now for a quirky tidbit. Sometimes, after the concubine was carried to the emperor's bedchamber, the eunuchs would leave her at the foot of the bed and instruct her to crawl towards the emperor beneath the covers, ensuring she remained humble and that no one could accuse her of approaching him with ill intent. Imagine being delivered to a grand bedroom, only to be told your entrance involves a unglamorous crawl under a giant blanket. What a truly unique, and rather humbling, form of imperial courtship. Historians still argue whether the elaborate and demeaning ritual of the concubine's visit was primarily a necessary security measure to protect the emperor from potential harm and to prevent politica intrigues from the harem, reflecting a pervasive sense of paranoia, or if it also served as a symbolic reinforcement of the emperor's absolute power and the concubine's subservient role, diminishing her personal agency in the most intimate moments. Was it about safety, or asserting dominance? The debate continues, much like the gentle whisper of silk against stone, a silent testament to the many layers of control that permeated every aspect of imperial life, even the act of joining the emperor for the night. You feel the immense gravity of the moment, the ritualistic precision, as a life transforms with each quiet step. From the ritualized arrival of the chosen concubine, your imperial evening now settles into its most guarded aspect, imperial privacy, the gilded curtain. You might imagine complete seclusion for the emperor and his companion. But privacy, in the imperial bedchamber, was a concept far removed from modern understanding, a meticulously constructed illusion managed by unseen hands and unblinking eyes, ensuring that even the most intimate moments were carefully monitored for decorum and dynastic record. Imagine the heavy silk curtains drawn around your vast bed, creating a seemingly impenetrable barrier, yet knowing that just beyond them, a eunuch might be present, ready to document every crucial detail. It was less about true solitude and more about a controlled, observed intimacy, like a wide, private, very important scene being played out under the constant, silent gaze of history. Once the concubine was brought to your bed, the chief eunuch responsible for imperial affairs would typically remain nearby, just outside the immediate bed curtains, often in an adjoining area of the bedchamber. This was not merely for security, but for official record-keeping. The eunuch would meticulously note the date and time of the visit, and if a suitable period of time had passed, indicating the union had been consummated, he might discreetly prompt you. Upon your signal, the concubine would then be escorted away, again wrapped in her silk cloak, and the eunuch would record the exact departure time. This rigorous documentation ensured the legitimacy of any potential offspring and maintained a precise record of imperial encounters. The gilded curtain thus served as both a physical barrier for visual modesty and a symbolic one, separating the public face of the emperor from his intimate life, yet never truly allowing for unbridled privacy. You can almost feel the unseen precinct. The silent watchfulness, even within the confines of the bed's silken enclosure. One mainstream historical fact is the meticulous record-keeping of the imperial court, which extended to virtually every aspect of the emperor's life, including his sexual relations. These detailed records, often kept in bedchamber ledgers, or similar documents by specific eunuch departments, were crucial for establishing the paternity of princes and ensuring the correct lineage for succession. His level of documentation is almost unparalleled in other historical courts. You can almost hear the soft scratching of a brush, recording the precise timestamp of an imperial encounter. Now for a quirky tidbit. Sometimes, if an emperor was particularly fond of a concubine, he might try to subtly delay her departure by engaging her in conversation or a moment of lingering affection, to the quiet consternation of the waiting eunuch, who was bound by strict protocol to maintain specific timeframes for visits. Imagine trying to extend a private moment, while outside your literal bedroom curtains, a diligent official is impatiently tapping his foot and checking his ancient wristwatch. What a truly human, and rather amusing, clash between imperial desire and bureaucratic rigidity. Historians still argue whether the extreme level of documented privacy in the emperor's bedchamber was primarily a necessary administrative and security measure to ensure dynastic legitimacy and prevent false claims of paternity, reflecting the high stakes of imperial succession, or if it also represented a profound lack of personal autonomy for the emperor, who, despite his ultimate power, had even his most intimate moments subjected to institutional control and public record. Was it about security and lineage, or ultimate control? The debate continues, much like the gentle rustle of a silk drape, a silent testament to the peculiar blend of grandeur and constraint that defined even the most personal moments of the Son of Heaven. You feel the constant presence of the institution even in this intensely personal space. From the meticulously documented privacy of the gilded curtain, your imperial evening now leads to the quiet, often profound, internal world of a monarch, personal reflections, a ruler's thoughts. Why? Oh, you might imagine the emperor, exhausted by the day's duties and the night's rituals, simply falling into immediate, dreamless sleep. But for a man bearing the weight of an empire, the moments before slumber could be a time of intense personal contemplation, where the vastness of his responsibilities, the intrigues of his court, and the solitude of his position would swirl through his mind. Imagine lying on your opulent bed, the silk sheets cool against your skin, as you review the faces of your ministers, the latest reports from distant provinces, or the memory of a concubine's whispered words. All illuminated by the quiet glow of a single, remaining lamp. It was less about immediate rest and more about a final, internal reckoning, like a very private, very high-stakes debriefing of your OWN soul. Despite the grandeur and constant attendance, the emperor at night was often a solitary figure. The solitude of his position meant that true confidants were rare, and the burden of ultimate decision making rested solely on his shoulders. In these final moments before sleep, his mind might wander across the day's events, a difficult political decision made, a potential threat averted, or perhaps till looming, the performance of a newly appointed official, or the well-being of his vast realm. He might reflect on his own legacy, his ancestors' expectations, or the cosmic alignment of his rule. These were the moments when the weight of the Son of Heaven title truly settled, a silent, internal dialogue about power, responsibility, and vulnerability. The sounds of the palace would have faded, leaving only the soft hum of his thoughts, a poignant reminder of the isolation at the pinnacle of power. You can almost feel the quiet intensity of these personal thoughts, the immense mental landscape contained within a single imperial mind. One mainstream historical fact is the philosophical emphasis on self-cultivation and introspection for rulers in Confucian thought. Emperors were encouraged to constantly reflect on their actions, learn from history, and strive for moral perfection. This philosophical underpinning made personal reflection an expected, even demanded, practice for an ideal ruler, especially in the quietude of night. You can almost hear the silent echoes of ancient sages, guiding the emperor's thoughts as he contemplates his day. Now for a quirky tidbit. Sometimes, if an emperor was particularly troubled by a specific decision or a complex problem, he might keep a small, personal slate or a bamboo slip by his bed. If an answer or a new idea struck him in the quiet hours before sleep, he would quickly jot it down, even in the dark, to ensure it wasn't lost by morning. Imagine getting a brilliant idea for a new state policy at 3 a.m. and having to scrawl it down on an ancient notepad. What a truly dedicated, and rather ingenious, form of imperial note-taking. Historians still argue whether the emperor's nightly personal reflections were primarily a genuine and effective means of mental processing and decision-making, contributing to his governance and personal wisdom, or if they were also a product of the profound psychological isolation inherent in his position, a necessary internal dialogue in the absence of true external confidence. Was it about introspection, or the burden of solitude? The debate continues, much like the gentle whisper of thoughts in a vast, empty chamber, a silent testament to the complex inner world of a ruler, carrying the weight of an empire into the realm of sleep. You feel the immense, silent weight of responsibility, the profound solitude, as you face your own thoughts before night's embrace. From the profound depths of personal reflection, your imperial evening now reaches its final, almost imperceptible, transition, the silent transition, night's embrace. You might imagine a sudden dramatic plunge into unconsciousness. But for the Son of Heaven, the journey into sleep was often a gradual, gentle fading, a quiet surrendering to the vastness of the night, leaving the burdens of the empire behind. Imagine the last flicker of a lamp being extinguished by a silent eunuch, the distant palace sounds completely muffled, and your own breath deepening into a steady, rhythmic cadence, as the world of wakefulness slowly gives way to the realm of dreams. It was less about an abrupt end and more about a graceful, almost cosmic descent into stillness, like a very slow, very profound journey. Why into perfect tranquility? As the final preparations were complete, the companions dismissed, the last reports reviewed, the chamber settled into absolute quiet, you, the emperor, would finally lie down. The vastness of the bed, the softness of the silks, and the complete absence of external stimuli would create an environment conducive to deep rest. The eunuchs, remaining ever vigilant in the outer chambers, would ensure no disturbance reached your inner sanctum. For a few lingering moments, perhaps you would listen to the rhythmic thumping of your own heart, or simply observe the quiet darkness. Then, slowly, the TS of the day, the worries of the empire, and the grand rituals of your imperial existence would recede. Your mind would quiet, your body would relax, and you would drift into the unconsciousness of sleep, a necessary respite that prepared you for the endless demands of another imperial dawn. You can almost feel the gentle tug of slumber, pulling you away from the waking world into a realm of deep, restorative peace. One mainstream historical fact is the critical importance placed on the emperor's well-being and rest for the stability of the entire dynasty. His health, including his sleep, was directly linked to prosperity and harmony of the realm, making his nightly repose a matter of state. This cultural belief elevated the act of sleeping for the emperor beyond a mere personal need to a crucial imperial function. You can almost feel the collective hope of an empire resting on the quality of your nightly slumber. Now for a quirky tidbit. Sometimes, if an emperor was known to be a light sleeper, eunuchs might even use special dream catchers or auspicious charms, typically crafted from jade or intricate knots of red silk, and place them subtly near his bed, believing they would ward off nightmares and ensure pleasant dreams. Imagine having ancient good luck charms specifically designed to give you a restful night's sleep. What a truly charming, and rather superstitious, form of imperial sleep aid. Historians still argue whether the elaborate and meticulous nightly routine of the emperor, culminating in this silent transition, was primarily a truly effective means of promoting rest and ensuring security, reflecting a highly advanced system of imperial management, or if it also served as a symbolic performance of his supreme status and isolation, creating an almost mythical aura around his personal life, even as he surrendered to the most human of needs. Was it about practical rest, or perpetual mystique? The debate continues, much like the gentle rhythm of slow, deep breathing, a silent testament to the seamless transition from the immense burdens of the throne to the profound peace of night, as the Son of Heaven finally, utterly embraces sleep. You feel the deep peace, the complete surrender, as the vast, silent night enfolds you. And so, as the final echoes of the Forbidden City's night fade, you can feel the air around you growing softer, the vibrant tapestry of ancient court life gently dissolving. We've journeyed through meticulously orchestrated hours before an emperor's sleep, witnessing the layers of ritual, security, and quiet personal moments that defined his descent into slumber. You've seen how every detail, from the selection of a concubine to the placement of a silent guard, contributed to a complex ballet of power, tradition, and profound human need. Let the whispers of those bygone palaces, the imagined rustle of silk, and the faint scent of ancient incense softly recede. The world of imperial influence, with all its intricate ceremonies and profound human drama, is now gently merging with the comforting quiet of your own space. There's no need to cling to the intricate details of eunuch duties or the subtle dangers of dream interpretation. Just let the gentle hum of history, a soothing presence in the quiet darkness, wash over you. May your thoughts be peaceful, your dreams be deep, and your rest be undisturbed. Sleep well.